A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "I have come to set the earth on fire, and how I wish it were already blazing. There is a baptism with which I must be baptized, and how great is my anguish until it is accomplished. Do you think that I have come to establish peace on the earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. From now on, a household of 5 will be divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. A father will be divided against his son, and a son against his father, a mother against her daughter, and a daughter against her mother, a mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So as you've been hearing over the last couple of weeks, this is a special August Advent mini-mission, and I'm happy to join all of you in welcoming Father Michael Bissex to preach the homily today. And Father Michael Bissex is studying in Rome for his doctorate in sacred theology, and the second reading is very appropriate for anybody going for a doctoral degree, insofar as Jesus the author teaches us to persevere in running the race. And so often things in life are challenging by just persevering, coming to church and being faithful to the Lord, and certainly in pursuing a doctoral degree. That's one of the challenges that is set before us. So joining with all of you here, I welcome Father Michael Bissex, who's here to preach the homily in this summer mini mission. Welcome, Father Michael.
Thank you very much. It's really an honor to be here in your parish family, and thank you, Monsignor Caldwell, for the warm welcome. As students, we don't get to preach a lot with communities as beautiful as these, so it really does mean a lot to be able to do this on my summer vacation. The gospel today is a perfect example of how Jesus talks to us in a lot of different ways when we listen to the scriptures. He can speak to us very comfortingly. He can speak to us very sternly sometimes, telling us about things that he cares about a lot. Today, he speaks passionately and emotionally, in a very beautiful way, I think, saying that he wants us to set the world on fire. We know that when we hear the Gospels, we're not only hearing something that happened 2,000 years ago or so, we're not only hearing the words that Jesus said to them, but we're hearing a live version. He's saying it to us in real time today, that he wants us to set the world on fire with the truth and the love and the goodness that he came to bring us and all the people that we meet. I think it's fair to say when we look at the world today, we don't really think that it is on fire, at least not in the good way. We might say it is on fire in the negative way. Not only talking about the last 3 years of the political division and the upheaval. But actually, if I can be starting off with a somber note, if we take a step back from the last few years, the picture actually doesn't get better, it gets a little worse. For the last few centuries, the human race has been marked by an attitude that we are constantly progressing, that we are constantly getting better, and particularly that we are always getting better as human beings. But if you think about a certain period of time between June 28th of 1914, that was the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand, and it began World War I. And just over 87 years later were the attacks of September 11th on our country. In that 87-year period, not even a century, in that 87-year period, history has recorded some of the worst things that human beings have done to other human beings. The attitude that we did not need God, the attitude that somehow we have made him irrelevant, that we are constantly progressing, constantly getting better. That attitude was proven false. And in the last 25 years or so, we've entered a new period, you might say, of human history in which we've not only perhaps lost our way, but we've lost sight that there is a way at all, that there is a way forward, that there is a way out of the mess, and that there is a way to actually set the world on fire in the way that Jesus wanted. I'd like to suggest to you a couple of things today, maybe not setting you on fire, but hopefully at least to give you a spark. 2 things that will help you follow the words of Jesus Christ in today's gospel, hopefully. And the first is the word faith. It's a word we hear all the time. Like a lot of words that we hear so often, we hear it so often that we kind of can forget its meaning, or it doesn't sound as important anymore. Hopefully, I'd like to give you some clarifications as to what faith is by telling you what faith is not. First of all, I found as a priest that many people struggling with depression, and maybe we have some of us in our midst who are, even currently, many people struggling with depression believe that it's their fault and that it's a sign they have lost their faith. And that is not true. Depression as an illness is not your fault, and is not a sign that you've lost the faith that Jesus Christ wants you to have. The second thing is discouragement. That's inevitable. We're all going to face that. The feeling like I can't do this anymore, the feeling like I'm not succeeding in the way that I should be, the feeling that it's not going to work out. That's an inevitable part of our lives, and it's not a sign that you're failing in your relationship with Jesus Christ. And nor is doubt. Sometimes we think, God, where are you? Did you abandon me? Did you leave me? Jesus actually asked that question himself at times. Doubt is not a sign that you have failed in your relationship with Jesus Christ. One of the signs that we've failed, the sign that we do or do not have faith, in fact, is the level that we have pride. It's the level that we are making everything about ourselves. See, when we fall into pride, we say, God, I don't need you anymore. Or, I only need you if you're going to give me what I want. And if you're not going to give me what I want, I'm going to do it myself. Pride results, inevitably, the way we look at God begins to be the way we look at each other. So pride makes us look at each other like, if you don't give me what I want, then I will no longer be there for you, and you no longer matter. Our relationship with God is always tied into our relationships with each other. See, when we fall into pride, that's when we actually begin to lose faith. And instead, faith is saying, God, I do need you. Even when it's dark, most of all when it's dark, with grief or loss or fear, I do need you. And even when I'm not getting everything I want right now, I'm going to follow you anyway. And most of all, in the joyful times, when things are going well, I'm not going to fall into that trap of thinking it's all about me or that I don't need you. I'm going to follow you anyway. And when we take that attitude of faith, we find that it impacts our relationship with others. We start to look at others and say, maybe I can help you. Maybe it's not all about me. Maybe you need something. Maybe I can be an example of Christian love to you, most of all when I disagree with you or don't like you. It's easy to see how faith, an attitude of faith, has an impact, a real, actual impact on the world around us. In my parish assignment, I was teaching 5th graders about what we call the second coming of Christ. It's what we say in the creed, you will come again to judge the living and the dead. One of the girls asked, so what if he comes back when I'm alive? I get to meet him? And I said, yes. And she said, and if I die, I get to meet him? I said, yes. And she said, so faith is a win-win scenario. She was right. Faith is a win-win scenario. And it will have a positive impact on the world around us, and hopefully right here in the Curie of Ars. And the second thing that will help light this fire is forgiveness. Another word that we hear a lot, but that we can then sort of take for granted or assume that we already know what it means. Like Faith, I want to tell you a few things that forgiveness is not. Forgiveness is not pretending like the other person did not hurt you. Forgiveness is not pretending like what they did was okay. Part of forgiveness is acknowledging that you actually were hurt and that they should not have done what they did. Forgiveness also does not mean necessarily reconciling with the person. Sometimes that's not possible. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to feel good. We know that forgiveness sometimes, the reason it is difficult is that it doesn't always feel good. But the call to forgiveness is what we hear in the Our Father when Jesus says to us, forgive, that we should pray, forgive us our trespasses. I know I have trespassed against people, me personally. I've contributed to that collective experience of human suffering through wrong actions. And Jesus is pointing out that none of us can say we haven't. And that's not about saying, oh, I'm so horrible, I'm so terrible, but it's about moving forward with forgiveness and saying, just as others have carried the burden that I have imposed, I will carry the burden that others have given me. That's what those words in the Our Father mean. And it's easy to see how forgiveness, like faith, can impact in a concrete way the world around us. In real, almost immediate ways, faith will have an impact. Jesus says in the gospel that one of the more confusing lines, I think, that he came to bring division. He came to bring division on the earth. And I think that the reason we hear it today is that he's warning us that if we choose to set fire to the earth in this way, through faith and forgiveness, he's letting us know that maybe not everyone's going to do that with us, but that he wants us to do it anyway. That he wants us to take these two routes and recognize that in him lies our hope out of a world that seems on fire in the negative way, and our hope to go towards a world where in eternity there will only be perfect happiness. My prayer is that today, maybe Monsignor Caldwell will be unhappy if you actually take the fire thing too literally, so please don't. But my hope is that there is at least a spark that you can find in your connection and your relationship with Jesus Christ on this beautiful summer weekend, so that moving forward with your year, you can start to be that fire, the fire of Jesus Christ, to the people closest to you and to everyone you meet.